How we doing, guys? We're continuing on the midnight list tonight with the Model S. I was going to work on setting this car up. It's another one where I'm just not going to bother. And you'll see why in just a second. That's all she's got. 130, we're kind of done. So this car being, we didn't really notice it with the Jaguar because the Jaguar was fast. This car being electric, it doesn't have a transmission, which that's true. Transmissions can't really survive their torque, and we just lost the clean race bonus. But they can't really survive the torque of the electric motor, or they don't do that yet. They don't have any built yet that can really withstand it, so they don't put transmissions in. Plus 130 miles an hour in a commuter car is fine, like a city car, and the acceleration in these things is pretty phenomenal. So for 130, this thing, especially with the super soft tires, I mean, there's not a whole lot of issue with the handling. I think it's actually a rear-wheel drive car. They're listing it as a rear, like rear engine, rear-wheel drive, which I don't think it's really fair to consider it rear engine like you do the Porsche. But because I mean, it's a lot of it. You know, the power is really on the axle. The motors are on the axles of these things, and the power is coming from the battery, which is under the passengers. So this is going to be a quiet review. The good news is it looks like we're going to get more than one lap. So what I'm doing with these electrics, the way I think it's fair, is if I have to run into the pit every single lap, I'm not using the final lap as the lap time for the list. I don't think that's the right way to do it. We might actually be just about perfect. So we're about a third gone, and we're doing a 3-lap race. But if you have to run into the pits every single time, the pit is part of your fast lap. So that Jaguar we reviewed, oh, they're actually going into the pits. I don't know why. So they're totally out of juice. So there aren't many upgrades you do to this. You do the suspension, you do the brakes. Maybe I'm getting much more regenerative braking because of the upgrades. I don't know, but it doesn't look like it. You do suspension, brakes, weight reduction, chassis stiffening. Like I said, there's no transmission, there's no motors, so you're not doing anything with that. Maybe the fact that this car is so much lighter than theirs, they have to pit. Oh, I should have hit the brakes there. But I'm doing way better on conserving the battery than they are, and I'm just keeping it floored. I didn't even brake when I was supposed to. This car is going to end up low on the list anyway. I can already see that with a 221 starting and 130 top speed. It's conserving tires well. This is actually a car I was curious about buying, and I'm pretty disappointed in it now. I guess if you have a race that's going to run with cars that top out around 130, this is probably a good choice because the acceleration is great. You don't really get the sense of that in the game, though, especially with the cars we're dealing with, the caliber of cars. I mean, we're dealing with cars with thousands of, 1,000 horsepower here, 500 800. You know, they're powerful vehicles we're running. It's not like I have a pickup and a Miata. So like if I jumped into a Tesla right now, I'd notice it would accelerate pretty impressively. But in the game, you know, Ferraris are boring. So this isn't really doing all that much for me. The Jaguar ended up with a time around 221. I don't remember exactly. I've got my list. I haven't really got the way to display it yet. I am working on something. I have a stand ordered, and I'm hoping that'll put it within the shot of the camera, but far enough away. The issue I'm running into is right now it's on an iPad. So the iPad has a glossy glass front, and it's basically going to be pointing at the TV unless I can come up with a different way to do it. So it's getting the glare from the TV, and it's unreadable on the camera footage. So I'm hoping to use some of like that negative space here and have it visible to where you guys can see, you know, the top cars or something like that. That's supposed to show up Friday, and I'm hoping to work something out to make it, you know, to where we can actually display the list. But yeah, I stiffen the anti-sway bars on this car too. So I'm guessing it made it corner better. Once I saw the car topped out at 133, I stopped worrying about getting the perfect setup for it. This car also has it's got the chin spoiler, the rocker ground effects, and it's got the standard wing that you can put on anything. And it does have a wide body kit, so you can modify it all right, but I don't know. Without being able to adjust the top speed of the car, there's not really anything you're going to do with it. So anyway, looks like the best lap was 219. So that's, I don't know if you can see yeah, you can't see the list at all. See, that's bright and glare. But that puts it actually puts it at the bottom of the list at the moment. So it's below the Jaguar, below the Sierra, and below the 930 Porsche. But we'll keep continuing to build. I'm wanting to put the Cappuccino in the list soon, as well as the Honda Beat with the engine swaps, because they're both cars that I use. For one, they're low in performance points, but I use the Cappuccino almost exclusively with the RX-7 motor to grind on the Tokyo Expressway. So I know right away if you had a dry track with some super slick or soft tires, it's going to end up on the top of this list. So we'll be doing that soon. I'm also thinking what I'll do with the engine swaps is I'll just have them as individual cars. I mean, if you can have, you know, the ZR1 and the Z06 as different cars, it makes sense to me that a Cappuccino with a factory motor versus a Cappuccino with the RX-7 motor swapped into it would count as different cars too. So that's kind of how I'm going to revisit the engine swap series. It's just kind of, I'll have the regular car, and then I'll do the engine swap variant, and that'll give us, especially once the list starts growing, it'll give us a good idea of how they compare, not only to each other, but to the rest of the field of the GT or the Gran Turismo lineup. So anyway, I'll leave you at that for tonight, and You guys have a great night.